Hello,
Hello.
everybody. I'm here with a special guest. Hi.
Hi, I'm Ambi from Japan.
This is Anbi. This is my partner, Anbi. We're here to talk about some books. We got, I guess I got tagged in a video by Andy over at Really Random Reads doing the rapid fire book tag. So we have some rapid fire questions that we've read and prepared for, that we've studied for a lot. So yeah, let's get down to some questions. The first one is ebook or physical book?
Physical book.
We're both physical book for sure. I mean, you know, I think the thing that you said is it like turning the page itself is like so satisfying.
Yes.
Instead of like tapping a Kindle.
Yes.
You know, it's just better to have, and we have some physical books here to show you, but like it just feels nice holding a physical book and turning it, smelling it. Yeah. that's the move for sure, for me at least. But I feel like with traveling, like if we wanted to do the Pacific Crest Trail, having an ebook would be really nice.
That is true. Yeah.
It'd be fun. Yeah.
Very true.
Cool. All right, second question. Oh, we're so rapid fire. Normally I take like a million years on every question.
Okay. Paperback or hardback?
I'm definitely right now paperback. I'm very much like, I like the for one thing, they're cheaper, and also they're like, they bend and are, in a way, are like more durable, even though they're not hard. I kind of like that. What about you?
For me too, paperback, I would say I can bring it anywhere.
Right, right. I took that hardcover of Moby Dick around Japan, and it was just like, it's too much. It's too much. So number 3 is online or in bookstore shopping.
I like in-store book shopping for sure.
Me too. It's like being in the library. It's kind of like, honestly, it's closest to being like a kid in a candy store. It's like, for me, the adult version of that. I know that I can't have everything, but having everything in front of me makes me feel like excited.
I get inspired.
Right, right. I start seeing things and they go into my subconscious, and I'm like, I really want to like read that someday. It's cool.
Like the smell.
Yeah, especially used bookstores. I think that's going to come up too. But yeah, number 4 is trilogies or series.
I never read Trilogy, so I'm not sure. So I'll maybe say series, I guess.
Yeah, I like the idea of trilogies. The only trilogy I've read is The Lord of the Rings, but of course that's kind of a fake trilogy. It was separated into a trilogy publishing-wise, but you know, Tolkien meant it as one volume and divided into 6 books. So I guess that's a trilogy, but I'm really not super for like the series that keeps going and going forever because then if it's not like planned out, it feels like the quality is not really consistent and it can kind of go up and down, and that can be fun. Like, it's interesting, especially if you have multiple authors working on a series, but I like it being self-contained, like a trilogy. That's my answer for sure. Yes. Heroes or villains?
I will say villains. Yeah, I'm kind of interested in to see that part of human beings, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's probably harder to write a really good villain than a really good hero. I wouldn't know. I've never tried, but we're reading the Brothers Karamazov right now, and we're early on into it. But Fyodor Pavlovich Karamazov, the father, he's a villain, but at the same time, he's so enjoyable and readable. It's delicious reading about him. So he's a villain. I guess I'm kind of more heroes at the end of the day, but a good villain is really, really, like, intoxicating. It's really, really nice having that. Number 6. A book that you want everyone to read. Do you have one? Do you have an answer for this?
A book you want... maybe No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai. It's one of the, like, famous novels in Japan. It's very deep. You can get depressed after reading it, but it touches the deep part of human being, I feel like. Yeah. And it's kind of related to the brother's kid, like how the father excelled. And
yeah, cool.
So it's very cool.
Yeah, those like psychological books are really good. We've never read a full Dostoevsky book, so this is kind of our first go around with like psychological, for me, like the really deep psychological stuff of Russian literature, because I've read Anna Karenina, but that wasn't quite as psychological. For me, the book that I want everyone to read, and I have a copy here, is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, which is my second favorite book of all time. Didn't someone give you this for your birthday one time? I gave this to Ami for her birthday last year.
Yeah, I'll sure read it.
Yeah. It's not, the easiest to read. So like Ambi's, you're reading in Japanese, and I'm reading in English. So I guess we kind of have those two different perspectives. But as an English book, this is kind of, I think, deceptively difficult if you're a non-native English speaker, just because the southern, like, vocabulary can be kind of, like, you won't really read a lot of these terms in textbooks, like learning English.
Yeah, true.
But it is a great book. And the reason I would want everyone to read it is just the core of empathy of this book. Like empathy, I'll do a video on this book at some point because it's like, you know, one of my favorite books ever. And, you know, the idea of you know, you don't know who someone is or what they're going through until you've crawled into their skin and walked around in it. That's the line from the book. And of course, that line is so visceral, and it's a great way to put the expression in English, take a walk in someone else's shoes, in a more visceral, like race-related way in the U.S. So To Kill a Mockingbird would be the one that I want everyone to read. But I'm lucky because in America, almost everyone does read it because it's taught in schools. And if your book is taught in schools, but I think I would want everyone to get like the message out of it that I wanted. So yeah, I got number 7.
Recommended and underrated book.
What was my answer? Oh yeah, this isn't an underrated book, but I have an overhated book, and that's Watership Down by Richard Adams, which is a book about. Were we together when I was reading that? I don't think I had even met you, but I reread it. I think for the 3rd time in college, and it's a book about bunny rabbits, just kind of a parable of their like creating their own life and listening to their instincts and just going through it's almost like an epic nation-forming adventure book with bunny rabbits. But it's so beautiful and it has like a lot of great lessons in it. And when I read it for school, everyone hated it unanimously except for me. I really, really liked it. So maybe it's beloved in the wider reading world. Like maybe on BookTube I'll have people in the comments who say, I love Watership Down, but like for me in school everyone hated it. So that would be the one that I would urge people to give another shot because it's really good.
I actually don't know. I need to, figure this
underrated.
Out. Yeah.
I haven't read enough to know like an underrated. Because like I've read mostly books that are like already famous, basically, or classics.
I feel like I'm going for that too.
At that phase of our life, I think that's probably where we're at. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Is it my turn? Last book you finished. What's the last book you finished?
It's the I'm liking The Professor and the Housekeeper, maybe it's opposite, by Yoko Ogawa Yoko. It's a very cozy, easy read book, but it's very, I would say, heartwarming. It makes you think about what truth is, and I don't know. There's many to talk about.
Right. And it's like the guy, he has an 80-minute memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. You were telling me about it earlier, and it's like this guy, he has a memory of 80 minutes long, so he has like a jacket full of like stuff on his sleeves that does like information. Is it about his own life, like his name, or is it just like...
It's kind of nice. He knows about himself, so he'll write some information about who he meets. Yeah. Because he knows 80 minutes later he'll forget. So, yeah. But, I
don't know if I told you this. There's a guy in real life who this happened to. He may still be alive. I think his name is Clive Wearing, and he's an English guy who got an infection, and his memory became like around 10 to 15 minutes or something like that. And as he aged, it went down and down, and so it became more like 60 seconds of like short-term memory. He had no long-term memory formation, no short-term memory formation, just could remember the last 60 seconds. And obviously it was like really, really sad. And you kind of learn about like what makes people human, what's like humanity, because obviously this guy's still a human and he's still experiencing things, but he loses a lot of things that we all have, like memory that we engage with, that we think of as human. When that was taken away from him, you know, the things that he can enjoy in his life and the way he interacts with people is really different. And maybe this almost sounds like a joke or like a cliche, but obviously he lives in the present, in the moment, and things that he enjoys. If he's watching like a game of soccer, he takes joy in every single like thing that's happening instead of like tracing the game. You know, it's interesting. So maybe I should read that book if it's translated into English.
I think it is, yeah.
That'd be cool. Oh, really? I had no idea. Cool. Yeah. So the one that I finished, I brought 2 things along. I cheated. The last thing I finished is technically a novella, and it's A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. And it's in this beautiful collected, it's actually part of a multi-volume set of the collected Dickens, and my grandmother very graciously gave it to me, or let me borrow it. And so this actually has great expectations in it as well. But I've never read a book by Charles Dickens or a short story, so it was so good. It was so joyous and fun. And I read a little bit about how he was like writing it, and he would like take these long walks around London and then come back, and his wife would talk about how like he would be writing it and like get up and like jump around and be writing stuff down, and then he'd be like weeping and writing it, and that comes through so much in the writing. It's so fun. But that's a novella, and the last book that I read, and this is actually maybe a novella too, is Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, and this is the Burton Raffles translation from the Middle English with a really cool, like almost alien cover. And it's just one of the greatest stories of all time, in my opinion. I've read it a couple times, and I want to reread it every Christmas. So this was really fun. These are my two like Christmas things that I read. But yeah, so what's the next one?
The last book you bought.
Oh, we're going so slow now. Do I go? The one of the last books I bought was a collected children's edition illustrated thing for one of my cousins who had a kid recently, and I thought that'd be a good gift to give so that they can have, like, it starts as pictures, and then of course it turns into stories by Lewis Carroll, and there's some Brothers Grimm stuff, and but the one that I got at the same time was a travel copy of Moby Dick for myself, which is just good to have instead of that hardcover. This is really like a small, this doesn't like even look like a Moby Dick, but I love the cover of Ahab and this white whale. It's hard to tell it's happening. And it was like it's $5 at this used bookstore. You can kind of see there backwards. And some kid had rewritten like the letter S after Moby to make it into Moby's Dick, which is honestly kind of endearing that some middle schooler or high schooler did that. But of course I drew hearts around it to kind of cover up the S. So now
I was wondering.
Yeah, I drew hearts. That section right there used to be like an S, basically. So this is the last book I bought.
That's cool.
What about you?
I think my brother bought. Since I came to America, I don't really buy books because I'm leaving soon too. But my brother bought this for me from Japan, the Brothers K. So yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. It's a cool cover. It's
I don't know if it's a cool cover.
It's an interesting cover. It's it's kind of cartoonish, but there's 5 volumes of this. Didn't you say there's 2 translations of the Brothers Karamazov into Japanese?
I'm not sure. It said 2, but maybe there's more.
There might be more. Maybe at the bookstore. Yeah. You can't imagine there'd be like that many. Maybe there are.
There's not that many. Maybe.
Yeah. Although I guess it is one of the like great pieces of world literature. So who knows? But probably of Crime and Punishment and Brothers K, they have a couple of translations. Cool. Last weirdest thing you've used as a bookmark. Neither of us had interesting answers. I have an origami macaw that I use as a notes bookmark for my Brothers Karamazov edition, but besides that,
receipt,
a human thumb. No, I've never used anything very strange. Receipts could be good. Receipts are kind of thin though too. Nails. Oh yeah. Used books, yes or no?
Of course, yes.
Huge yes. A lot of my books are used, or like things that I got from my school for $1 and then patched up. Yes, it's just awesome.
I like it. I actually like it more than the new books. Like
me too.
It's more easy to access. I feel I feel like the new books are like kind of
daunting.
New.
Right. It's like, and then when you turn a page on a new book, it's like it's kind of closed itself already, and you have to break it open. And someone else. The other thing is that it feels like it acquires the spirit of everyone who has like come before you.
Yeah.
And so like in used bookstores, like I found maybe this answers the last question. I found like bookmarks in used bookstores that are like people's photos of their own life, like of a picture of someone like in a room with an exposed photo holding like a plant. And like I didn't buy that book. I don't know what book that was, but like. That component of a used book, or it has an inscription that's like, to my grandson or something like that. That's just so sweet. Yeah, I love that. That makes me feel like it's like the book's connected to humanity. Yeah. So, and so, the next one? 12.
12, okay. Top 3 favorite genres.
I don't know if I think about genres that much when I read, but I mean, this is the worst answer, but like right now, of course, I'm into the classics. I really like mysteries, and I do really like adventures. That's kind of where I am.
I would say mysteries and maybe historic fictions, and also I'm getting into classics definitely this year. I want to read more classics.
Yeah, I'm trying to get that foundation of classics, and then I can maybe explore more. Yeah, and then we'd be able to probably answer the question about like underrated books. Yeah,
I think so too.
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, borrow or buy?
Depends on. Depends on. Some books like the Brothers K I wanted to buy because I knew I would take time and I want to reread it. Right.
I'm the same way. I think when it's like these classics, it's like you want to have them just to have them, and you kind of are trusting like the world and the critical body and other world readers that like, I just bonked the table, that they'll be worth it, that they'll be like they can sustain multiple readings. But if it's like a book that everyone's talking about, that's a new release, you're like, I don't know if I want that. Then like maybe go to the library or borrow it from a friend. That's where I am too.
So too.
Yeah.
Character or plot?
I'm character all the way. I'm like hardcore character. I think plot is good and interesting, and I love plot. Like the Harry Potter books are kind of famous for like having characters that I don't want to like, rag on them, but like they're not that deep or developed, and they're kind of cliched, and they're kind of more representative of things, like the spiritual trinity of like Ron being the body and Hermione being the intellect and Harry being the heart, rather than like actual people. But the plots are so fun and interesting, and they keep you hooked, and that's good. But at the end of the day, I'd much rather have characters. I think To Kill a Mockingbird is a book that has great characters, and of course, Russian literature is full of amazing characters just talking and doing things. Yeah.
True. I feel like, if I think about it now, I'm on the character side.
Oh, changed. When we were talking about this, you were plot.
I realized the books that I have in my own touched, I feel like most of the time it's character focused, and I feel like afterwards the plot kind of continues on.
I don't think you reread a book for the plot. I think you reread for characters and for the ideas. Yes. I think that's kind of where I am. You can, but when you reread a book for plot, it's more like you're trying to be entertained, like Harry Potter or something like that, which is great as entertainment, but it's different. The plot of Moby Dick is so interesting, but he famously goes all over the place and he abandons the plot, but that's why you reread it. So yeah, definitely character for me. Long or short books?
I don't know. I feel like if this was maybe a year ago, I would say short books. I was reading a lot of short books more. But I feel like now I'm into the Brothers K. I feel like maybe I'm getting into more long books.
Right. And we've been spending a lot of time by the fire. We have been making wood fires and spending all day reading by the fire. I mean, it's been like heavenly. And when you have a long book and you're doing that, it feels different. And I love like Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. You can read this in 1 or 2 sittings, and it's satisfying. And of course, like if you're trying to get into reading more, and you're in our generation, and we're kind of used to like our phones and things like that give us instant gratification. It's good to have the short books to feel good. But that sort of leads into actually to the next thing, which is long or short chapters.
I would say short chapters for me right now.
Me too. And that's kind of like training wheels maybe a little bit, but I love like reading Anna Karenina is like 2 to 3 pages is a chapter, and you feel like you're making your way through this really long, big book, and it feels satisfying. I love that. Sure. I think Pride and Prejudice has like pretty long chapters, and that's a book that like it really works for the book. I think it just has to work for the book, really, but short chapters are of course like nice. Yes. I think Brothers Karamazov is relatively short chapters.
I think it's relatively short for me.
For me, it's like Dostoevsky just doesn't do very many paragraph breaks, so you'll like turn the page sometimes, and it'll just be a single paragraph block from both pages, and that can be kind of like
the characters talk the whole
right. Yeah, the Elders Osimo will start talking, and they'll just the whole time, which I like, and it's cool. But I like the short chapters too.
Name the first 3 books you think of.
Brothers Karamazov, Moby Dick, and the Bible. I thought of those already when I was reading the questions.
Okay, I would say Brothers Karamazov,
Moby Dick, and the Bible.
I feel like I don't know, no longer human because I was talking about it now. A Tale of Genji. I don't know.
Tale of Genji. Yes.
Because he's reading it.
Yeah, I'm reading it. I feel a little bit bad because Anbi's visiting right now. We've been reading Brothers Karamazov, so I haven't really been reading Tale of Genji as much. But I do miss it, which is a good to know that I miss it. And I also like reading Brothers Karamazov so deeply and intently and for long periods of time makes me excited to do that more with Tale of Genji. But that's cool. Tale of Genji, very cool. Books that made you laugh or cry.
Made me cry was the one liter.
Yeah, one liter
of
tears.
Tears, yeah, 1 liter of tears.
Yeah,
that was a very kind of true story that a girl had some kind of sickness and she knows the death is coming soon, and she writes about her diary, and it's like it made me think about like life and death. Yeah, right. I think nonfiction. I mean, great fiction makes me cry too, but like really well written nonfiction about things that happen to people. I mean, that just gets you. I feel like. I feel like Diary of Anne Frank did that to me for sure. But
To Kill a Mockingbird. I mean, I'm just bringing it up a million times, but I've cried every single time I finished that book. At the ending scene. Well, I guess I won't say it in case other people want to read it, but that book makes me cry. Laugh-wise, I kind of laugh at most books. Moby Dick makes me laugh out loud a lot. Brothers Karamazov made me laugh.
Too.
Yeah. It's nice. I don't know who said this. I think it was there was a film director who said something like along the lines of, if a director has no sense of humor, I don't trust them. Like, they're missing a huge component of humanity that, like, takes away from their ability to, like, move you emotionally on the other levels. I don't know if I totally agree with that. I think there are just some people out there who are, like, joyous, passionate people, but who aren't, like, funny and don't write trying to be funny. But books are funny. I mean, it just gives you range and depth. You know, it really does. It's not just surface level, I think. So I mean, kind of everything makes me laugh, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah. Our world or fictional worlds.
Yeah. I think when we were talking about this earlier, like, it's a safer bet if you're an author to write in our world. It's like everyone's going to be on the same page, and you don't have to, like, work to establish things. On the other hand, fictional worlds can be incredible, but really only if you do them really well. Like, Tolkien, obviously, like, Tolkien is, like, for me, he's the quintessential example. I haven't gotten into fantasy as a genre beyond him, so I don't really know. I know that the Stormlight Archives are, I think, wrapping up. There's another book series that are fantasy that's really popular. But even then, you can escape into books even when they're not fantasy, I think. So you don't have to have it. So I think I lean our world in general.
For me, I'll say our world. I feel like I can relate more. I can easily go into the world.
Yeah, which is funny because in a way, like, reading Brothers Karamazov, it's not our world.
True.
You know, it's like, and it's not either of our worlds. It's neither Japan or the U.S. I guess it's closer. It's a little bit more Western in Brothers Karamazov. But, like, you know, you're reading about the liberation of the serfs and different Russian culture things that are different. So yeah, I think our world too. Audiobooks, yes or no?
I'll say if it's in Japanese, yes, for sure.
That makes sense.
If it's in English, so yeah.
I don't think I've ever tried to, because I can speak German. I learned it in college, but I don't think I've ever tried to listen to a whole book in German.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would be worth my time. I think it would. I mean, it would be worth my time in terms of learning German, but not in terms of like
you'll be learning from
or right instead of like experiencing the story. Yeah. I love listening to the Rob Inglis narrated Lord of the Rings. I kind of have this on like at all points in my life whenever I'm like working out or like long drives or doing like hiking where I've hiked when I had like really bad altitude sickness and I was just listening to the Council of Elrond and like it really helped me out. But for the most part, I would say that an audiobook is like seeing a play or something instead of reading the Shakespeare play, or it gives you an interpretation that can be really good, but it's only one kind. And if you read it yourself, you get your own interpretation, and you also, over subsequent rereads, get different interpretations. I've listened to True Grit, narrated by Donna Tartt, 3 times on a road trip visiting you, and that was amazing, but it's one interpretation, so I haven't read the book with my own voice. So they're good, but they're not the way that I want to experience most books. That's my take. Do you judge a book by its cover? Or ever judge a book by its cover? A literal book.
A little bit, I think. Some books that kind of interest me. I'm like, oh, this cover's kind of cool. Let me see what's inside.
Right.
And if the cover's not that fascinating, I don't go up to the book.
Right.
If I'm in a bookstore.
Right. Yeah. I think if you're trying to decide... Like, if I read a book and it's a great book, and then it just happens to have, like, a not good cover, like, probably won't affect it that much. But the interesting thing is, like, does it reflect the author's taste? If it's a new book that comes out and the cover is just really bad, is that the author's fault, or is it the publisher's fault, or whoever designed the cover? Like, The Great Gatsby, Scott Fitzgerald was, like, kind of involved in the production of that cover, and it's a beautiful, amazing cover, and it's kind of the edition that everyone gets published for The Great Gatsby, and it's always beautiful, and that reflects his good taste. So if there's a really bad cover, maybe it can reflect bad taste, at least visual taste on the author, but maybe the literary taste is better. But when it comes to, like, classics, not at all. Like, if there's if I found a Moby Dick cover that was just like, I think the Penguin Classic Moby Dick is of a beluga whale, and it's not even a sperm whale, which is fair because they hunt other whales in that book, but it's like, that's like not the right cover, and I wouldn't really want that edition, but like, it's not going to affect my reading of the book or whether I choose to buy it if I already love the book. But I think an edition of a book does sort of matter as to like your reading experience, like we were talking about with ebooks. It matters what you're holding in your hands, and like holding this edition of Moby Dick in my hands and feeling like cozy and yet I can travel with it is a different feeling than the hardcover or something. So So the cover kind of matters, but once you get into the book,
True.
yeah,
True.
you're fine. Okay, a book to movie or book to TV adaptations.
Book to movie, book to TV.
Yeah, do you like TV or movies better when it's from books?
Both are kind of, but I'll say maybe movies.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
I never watched really TV adaptations.
I don't know very many TV adaptations of books besides the Pride and Prejudice miniseries, which is great.
Okay.
But like for the most part, books don't often get adapted into like TV series. Is way less often than either like movie series like Harry Potter or something like that, or Lord of the Rings. But I think they're making a Harry Potter TV show. So yeah, I'm definitely like I like the movies better in general. I think they adapt better. Every book's different. Like I think The Hobbit, for instance, is like a book that would be really, really well adapted to a finite miniseries because it doesn't really have a 3-act structure. There's lots of little like all the chapters of The Hobbit do like a really good job of telling their own like complete stories, like the trolls and Battle of Five Armies could be a big episode or something like that. But for the most part, movies for sure.
Yes. Last one?
23.
23. A movie or TV adaptation you preferred more than the book?
I couldn't think of very many. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard. I mean, I don't think I've just read enough like mediocre books to know that.
Yeah,
like almost, I've always really like in my life. I'm not a super well read person, so I think I just like have read mostly really great books, and they don't really get adapted into better movies. But the one exception maybe is that I read at the recommendation of one of my childhood friend's brothers, Roadside Picnic. And that got adapted into the movie Stalker by Andrei Tarkovsky. And I really liked the book, but the movie floored me. It's a really different adaptation, so it's Russian literature and Russian cinema, but more modern. So maybe that's it. But besides that, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know too.
All right. Yeah. 24, series or standalones? This is the final question, by the way. We did it. Series or standalone?
I feel like I read more standalones.
Me too. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think if the series is like, if they'd planned out the series, then I'm cool with that, if they know. But if they're just going and going and they don't really know how it's going to end, then...
Yeah,
not my thing as much.
Me too.
Yeah. I think we just read novels most of the time. Yeah. And that's it. We did it. We did the questions. This is amazing. Yeah, we planned for this. It's been a ride. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for letting me on your book channel.
Yeah, this is the BookTube channel. Hopefully we'll have more friends and guests in the future. So yeah, these are some rapid fire questions done only in 27 minutes. Just nothing. All right, well thank you everybody. We'll see you soon and hope you had a great New Year and Christmas. Bye-bye. Bye.